Welcome to Payentry's latest webinar on the CARES Act. My name is Kathy Graham, and I'm head of the HR Services Division of Payentry. I want to welcome you today. We're going to try to go over some of the latest and greatest news about the CARES Act, and I'm sure all of you are dealing with trying to understand all of the legislation that's come out in the last 2 weeks, as are we. The CARES Act, and at the end, just let me, two things I forgot to tell you for housekeeping purposes. I will send you a copy of this webinar in PDF format after this webinar is over. And also, if you have any questions, please type them into the chat area at the bottom of your screen. All right. Getting on with the CARES Act. CARES actually stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security. So the acronym CARES Act. The law was signed by President Trump on March the 27th of 2020. There is no true effective date other than that, so that's the date that we're relying on, unless the legislation specifically states, each piece of it specifically states a time frame. We look at it as March the 27th. This legislation is supposed to help employers and businesses, or I'm sorry, employers and employees that are negatively impacted by the coronavirus. Another, I think, over 6 million people filed for unemployment last week. So in 1 week, and it's astronomical right now. The programs that we're going to talk about today, and part of those that are being implemented, are the Payroll Protection Program loans. That is a hot topic right now. The Employee Retention Tax Credit, your opportunity to defer Social Security taxes as an employer, and we're going to talk about the Unemployment Benefit Extension. The FFCRA added some aspects to that, but we're going to clarify it and extend it through the CARES Act. So here is an effective date for the Paycheck Protection Loans piece of the legislations, effective February the 15th to June 30th of this year. Businesses with fewer than 500 employees are eligible for filing for one of these loans. The hospitality industry is generally excluded when you say they have to have less than 500 employees, but this actually does include them if there's an NAIS code of 72, which could be restaurants, it could be hotels, things of that nature. They are eligible as long as they employ less than 500 employees at one location. This also includes franchisees separate from the corporation. Lenders will determine the eligibility for loans based on your business status on February the 15th of 2020, and looking at what kind of wage payments and taxes paid you could apply for going forward. The purpose of these loans is to pay for ongoing payroll costs, and that would exclude any leave payments that you're getting under the FFCRA. This is the one where you have paid leave for coronavirus illness or childcare. Then you can include health insurance costs, your rent or mortgage, your utilities, and other debts that are incurred by the business. So that is why you would be getting the money, is to use it for those purposes. The loan amounts are available based on a formula that's been created by the Small Business Administration. It is the average monthly payroll costs during the prior year times 2.5, or $10 million, whichever is less. So I've done CARES Act webinars before, but this wasn't included because we've gotten some clarification on it. Payroll costs consist of compensation to employees whose principal place of residence is in the United States in the form of salary, wages, commissions, or similar compensation. It can include cash tips. It can include payment for vacation, parental leave, family, medical, or sick leave. Also, it can include an allowance for separation or dismissal. Those would be severance packages. Payment for employee benefits, consisting of group health care coverage, including the insurance premiums, and for retirement expenses, retirement plan expenses. The payment of state and local taxes assessed on compensation of employees. And this loan program also allows independent contractors or sole proprietors to file for a loan. It would be based on their wage, commissions, income, or net earnings from self-employment or a similar compensation. So one of the things that's interesting about all of this legislation, including unemployment, is that it does include independent contractors, your 1099 employees. So when you're filing for this loan, you would not include your 1099 employees in your wages paid because they can file for themselves. Also, what's excluded from this, from payroll costs? Any compensation of an employee whose principal place of residence is outside of the United States. So if you have people here working on visas, you would not include their compensation. You can't include the compensation of an employee that makes more than $100,000. You can list the 100,000, but no more. So there is a cap. You cannot include federal employment taxes that were imposed or withheld between February the 15th, 2020 and June the 30th of 2020, including the employee and employer share of FICA. Income taxes required to be withheld from employees cannot be used as compensation for these paycheck loans. And qualified sick and family leave wages for which a credit is allowed under the FFCRA. So you can't use the money that you are getting returned to you. Loans are fully guaranteed by the federal government through the end of this year. And there is no requirement for these loans to be personally guaranteed by the borrower, which is a good thing. The lenders that are offering these loans or helping you with these loans include banks, credit unions, and other financial institutions. What we do suggest is that you work with your current lender if they are offering the SBA or the Paycheck Protection loans. They're called PPP loans right now. There is another disaster relief program available through the SBA that's been out there for a while, and it has been used when we have hurricanes and things of that nature, but that is also eligible. It's just not part of this legislation that's just been passed. So make sure that you are working with someone who has your best interests at heart. The loans, the money set aside for these loans will go fast, and you want to make sure that you get in there and get your application in right now if this is something that you are interested in. The SBA was required and has streamlined this loan process so that it doesn't take months. It should take days or weeks. Your deadline to apply is June the 30th of this year. But we're afraid that the money may be gone by then, so do it long before then if you're going to file. Here's the good thing about this. The federal government can forgive the payroll protection loans that are equal to the total of your qualified expenses during an 8-week period following your loan origination if you continue payroll. Those costs include payroll costs, interest on secured debt, rent, and utilities, but those expenses must have already been in place prior to February the 1st of this year, so you can't go out and get a new secured debt or a new building, that kind of thing. Has to be already in place. And I'm going to go back because I think that this slide maybe is missing something. you get, you are forgiven, not forgiven, you can get a 100% tax credit on some of this money that's under the FFCRA, and you probably already know that, so we won't go back over that. But there's another tax credit that's available to employers. Um, if your operations were shut down or partially suspended because of the COVID-19 situation, if your gross receipts have declined more than 50% over the same quarter in 2019, you can apply for this tax credit, and it also includes tax-exempt organizations, which are not normally part of these tax credit programs, but it does include tax-exempt organizations. This provides the eligible employers with a tax credit for 50% of the wages paid from March the 12th through December the 31st. And it does include health insurance costs, what you pay and what the employee pays added together for health insurance. So this is a tax credit of 50% of wages. The retention credit applies toward the employer's share of the Social Security tax, the 6.2% of wages due to Social Security Administration. It also includes a portion of the railroad retirement tax, and the way that this is accomplished, how you get this retention tax credit, is you regularly submit your taxes minus your 6.2% for 50% of the wages paid during that particular time. The beauty of this tax credit is that there is no repayment. This is money that you're not ever going to have to pay, the 6.2%. So to recap that, whatever your compensation and other qualified expenses are during that time for health insurance, you can offset what you pay in Social Security tax to the federal government by 50% of that amount and never pay it back. So when you never have to pay something back, I think it's always a good thing. It doesn't happen often. There's also another way to save right now through another tax credit. It's actually not a tax credit, it's delayed payment of your payroll taxes to assist in cash flow. As today's employers are finding it harder and harder to keep up the income that they had before this, cash flow is a problem. So you can defer payment of your portion of the Social Security taxes, the 6.2%, not the 1.45%. If you're receiving, however, a PPP loan, you're not eligible for this option. So if you are getting or applying for a loan, this would not be available to you. And you cannot defer employee Social Security taxes, only the employer's portion of the Social Security tax. Your deferred taxes must be paid back within 2 years. Half of it has to be paid back by the end of 2021, and the second half by the end of the next year, 2022. Let's talk a little bit more about how unemployment has been affected by this. There are so many people out there filing. It does expand assistance through December the 31st of this year. The unemployment benefit that an individual will get equals the benefit determined under the state law. We all know that states have different laws regarding, number one, unemployment and workers' compensation. Unemployment, there's a state wage base established. So it would be whatever your state allows plus $600 until the end of July. So I've had some questions on this. Yes, an employee could be making more on unemployment than they were making working for you. I don't think anyone thought about prorating this for part-time or lower paid or whatever. It's not prorated at all that we've seen. It also expands the maximum entitlement for unemployment from 26 weeks to 39 weeks. So that's another 13 weeks of benefits. However, your state has to agree to federal requirements in order to get this federal funding for the extra benefits. So check your state's website. It's very important to know that what your state is doing. Many states have gotten on the bandwagon right off the bat. Others are dragging their feet. If you can't find information on your state, please call me. We also have a listing of each state's website on our um, I'm sorry, each state's unemployment website on our website at payentry.com. So who can apply for this for unemployment during this time frame? Well, it's those that you would think could apply, those who have a diagnosis or have been quarantined home. If there's a state or some sort of order that in place that requires people stay at home so they cannot come to work unless it's an essential business, because those people are allowed to go to work. It could be caring for a family member. It could be that the individual's place of business has closed. But it can also be self-employed people now. In the past, because they don't pay unemployment taxes, self-employed individuals, business owners have not been able to apply for unemployment because they didn't pay in. Now they can participate in the unemployment program. So what's next in all of this? Well, we hope it's not zombies, the zombie apocalypse. Because I expect to see them coming out of the woods in back of my house any day now. We expect more updates from the IRS and the Department of Labor, clarifications. We also expect the Small Business Administration to issue more loan information. The system updates that we're working on, we've developed the codes for tracking the paid leaves under the FFCRA. The remainder of our coding changes and processes changes should be available next week. And we hope that that we get answers to a lot more of our questions, because we do still have questions. Anytime something this large rolls out, it always leaves us hanging on certain areas and looking for legal um, language on the laws. Some of that we've gotten, some of it we haven't. But if you have a question and you want an answer to it, we're going to talk a little bit about your questions today, but if you think of something afterwards, please just email astarservices@payentry.com. This is where we check this queue every day and answer them as quickly as possible. And we are having a queue right now that is empty, so make sure that you send us your questions. Someone has a question. I have a business owner who said the PPP loan does not cover rent and utilities. Do you know why he might be confused? It depends. He could have gotten bad information from his lender. I can look into that for you, Glenn, and we'll get back to you on it. Another question, how would the paid leave credits be tracked? The paid leave credits are tracked using the codes that we just issued to our clients. So there are three, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 codes, 3 that will track the type of leave that the person is taking, and 1 that tracks the health insurance cost. So those are already available, and you should be coding them as need be. Any other questions? Lindsay has a good question. Is the $600 extra for unemployment a total or for each week? Brace yourself, it's for each week. So it would be $600 a week on top of whatever the allowable amount is for the state. And it is based on what they earned, but a lot of the states have $300 and $400 limits. Someone at the top of that could be taking home $1,000 a week. It's a good question, Lindsay. And we're confused about that because that doesn't just seem logical. Any other questions that you have? I appreciate your attendance today. Again, I'm Kathy Graham, and if I can be of any assistance to you through this crisis that we're going through, please let me know. I'm here to help. My email address is cgram at payentry.com, or you can write to HR Services and I will pick that up also. So thanks for attending today. Stay safe and stay well.